Hey guys, welcome back. We'll continue with the book Automate the Boring Stuff with Python. And in today's video, we are going to cover how to work with PDF documents and Word documents. You can follow along for free by heading over to automatetheboringstuff.com, or if you prefer a physical copy of the book, you'll find a link in the description down below. We already covered how to work with text files, how to open them, write them, and work with them. And in contrast to that, PDF and Word documents are binary files, which makes them more complex to work with, since those files not only store text information but also additional information such as the fonts that are being used, color information, and layout data. To work with PDF documents, we are going to use a module called PyPDF2, and to install that we can head over to our Mu code editor, click on the gear icon on the bottom right side, and then we can head over to third-party packages and add PyPDF2, and then click confirm to add it. And specifically we should be installing version 1.26. So when you type in PyPDF2, you can add two equal signs and then add the version number, so 1.26.0, and that's going to install the proper version. Now with that out of the way, we are going to download some PDF documents that we're going to work with. You can find the link to download those documents in the description down below. This is going to forward you to this page here, and here you have a link to download the files used in the book. We are going to work with a couple of different PDF documents, and we need to move those over into the proper directory. So specifically we are going to work with the meeting minutes and meeting minutes 2 PDF document, and also with a PDF document called Encrypted, as well as some additional ones. You can just copy them over to your Mu code directory, which should be located in users, and then in your username you should find the directory mu_code, and here you can drag and drop those files into, and then they will be accessible to be worked with. And we are going to start by working on the meeting minutes document. If we open it up and take a look at it, we can see that we have 19 pages in this document, and we're going to work with that PDF document and read its data. To do that, we can go back to our Mu code editor and open the REPL. We start by importing the PyPDF2 module, and then we are going to open our PDF document called meeting minutes, and as a setting argument to the open function we call RB, which stands for read binary. And this open file will be stored in PDF file object. Next we use the PDF file reader method, which is also part of the PyPDF2 module, and we pass our file object to it. We're going to store that back in PDF reader. Let's next have a look at the number of pages by calling num pages on PDF reader, and here we can see that our PDF document has 19 pages. Next we're going to reference the first page, and since this is zero based, we are going to call getPage on PDF reader, and we're going to pass a value of 0 to it. And to actually display the text of our PDF document, we then need to take this first page here that we stored in page object, and we call extract text on it, and this is gonna return the text of the PDF document. So here we can see official board meeting, then the date, meeting of March 7th, 2014, and then the initial text. And if we compare that to the PDF document, we can see that's exactly the content displayed here. Of course, we are ignoring the images displayed here, the logo and the image on the left side, but the other text is returned to us. And then finally, of course, we need to ensure that after we are done, we are closing our file. Now we can also decrypt PDF documents, and for that we can work with the encrypted PDF document, which is also part of the downloaded resources. So we should make sure to also move that to our Mu code folder. And when we try to open that document, we can see that we have to provide a password in order to actually access that information. We can also check that in code. So again, we are going to import our module, and then we are working with our PDF file reader method here, which we pass the open method to, and then we provide the name of the PDF document and RB for read binary, and we store that back in PDF reader. Next we can call isEncrypted on PDF reader, and here we get back true, meaning that our PDF document is indeed encrypted. Now if we go ahead and we try to actually get the first page by using getPage and passing it an index of 0, we're gonna get an error message, the PDF read error here, that the file has not been decrypted, so we are not able to work with it. But of course we can decrypt our file by using the decrypt method and passing the password to it. So in this case the password is rosebud, and if we pass it as an argument to decrypt, then our document is going to be decrypted. We get 1 back for confirmation. And now we can get ahead and we can call our getPage method. In this case, it works properly, so we actually get the first page and could read it out. Now we can not only read PDF documents, but we can also write them. And for that, we are going to use the PDF file writer rather than the PDF file reader, which we have been working with so far. But since we are working with binary files, we have some restrictions compared to working with text files. Specifically, we are limited to copying pages from other PDF documents, rotating pages, overlaying pages, and encrypting files. And also when working with our PyPDF2 module, we are not allowed to directly edit a PDF document. Instead, we need to create a new PDF and then copy the content over from an existing document, and then we can finally save that document. So let's have a look at an example. Here we have 2 different PDF documents. One is called Meeting Minutes and the other one is called Meeting Minutes 2. They are sort of similar, but there are some differences. For example, this is from January 15th, 2014, and the other document is from March 7th. And what we want to do is we want to copy pages from one document to the other one. And to do that, we of course need to first import our PyPDF2 module. And then we are going to first open the meeting minutes file, the first document we looked at, using the RB for read binary as a second argument. And we're going to store that in PDF1 file. We're going to do the same for meeting minutes 2 PDF, and this is going to be stored in PDF2 file. Next, we're using the PDF file reader method, and we're passing PDF1 file to it and store that back in PDF1 reader. And of course, we need to do the same for the PDF2 file, which we store back in PDF2 reader. Next, we need to create our PDF file writer by calling PDF file writer on PyPDF2 and storing that in PDF writer. And then we go ahead and we loop over the individual pages in our first PDF document using num pages. And we get the specific page here with a specific index, storing that back in page object. And then we use the addPage method on PDF writer to actually write this object. And if we think back to our PDF document, we basically loop through each of the 19 pages of our PDF document and we are writing that to the separate PDF writer here. We need to do the same for the second PDF document. So after we have written all the pages of the first PDF document, we are then going to loop over all the pages in the second PDF document and writing those pages also to PDF writer. And those of course are those 21 pages in the second document, which will then be added to the new document as well, which already includes the 19 pages of the first document. Next, we are going to create the new PDF file that we want to use as an output file. For that, we are using the open method and we pass the new name of the PDF document to it that we want to use. In this case, combined minutes. And as a second argument, we're writing WB for write binary. And that's going to be stored in PDF output file. And now we are calling write on PDF writer, passing the output file as an argument. And this is going to create our PDF document here. Since we already stored the pages of the first PDF document and the pages of the second PDF document in the PDF writer, this is going to write a total of 19 plus 21, so 40 pages to our combined minutes PDF document. And the only thing left to do is to actually close all those files. So first of all, the PDF output file, then the PDF1 file, and finally, we are going to close PDF2 file as well. Now to verify that, we can have a look at our new code folder. And here we can see combined minutes. And this is a newly created PDF document, which as we can see has a total of 40 pages. And so this includes, first of all, the March 7th report here. But then as we go to page 20, we see here on page 19, the first report ends. And then the second document is attached to it right afterwards. So this is how we can copy pages and therefore create new PDF documents by merging 2 PDF files together into one. We can also rotate pages of PDF documents. For instance, we can take this first page of our meeting minutes PDF document and rotate it, for example, by 90 degrees. To do that, as before, we are going to import our PyPDF2 module. Then we're going to open our PDF document by providing RB for read binary as a second argument. We're then calling the method PDF file reader, providing our minutes file here as an argument. Then we're going to get the first page of our PDF reader, and then we can rotate that first page clockwise by using the rotate clockwise method. Next, we can create a new PDF writer, And then we can add our page that we selected. So the first page that we rotated clockwise by 90 degrees will be added to the PDF writer. After that, we're using our open method again, passing the name of the new PDF that we want to create to it, and also WB for write binary. And finally, we are using the write method, passing our result PDF file as an argument to it, and we're calling that on PDF writer. And after we closed both of the files that we have been working with, we can then take a look at that newly generated rotated page PDF document. And we can indeed see that this new document here has a single page in it, and this is the front page of our meeting minutes from before, but the first page is rotated by 90 degrees. We can also use our PyPDF module to overlay pages. So for instance, we can take our meeting minutes from before and a second file, watermark.pdf, which we should also move to our new code folder. And this basically includes this image here, top secret, and we want to combine this with our meeting minutes document. To do that, we are going to import our PyPDF2 module as before. We are going to open our meeting minutes file in read mode. We are defining our PDF reader again by using the PDF file reader method, passing the minutes file to it, and then we are getting the first page of our minutes first page. And we are also going to open the watermark PDF document in read mode, storing that back in PDF watermark reader. And then we are using the merge page method, getting the first page of our watermark reader, getting the first page of our watermark reader. We need to generate our PDF writer, and then we are adding the minutes first page to the PDF writer. Now, after we added that watermark to the first page, we are then going to loop over all the other pages, starting from index 1, so the second page, all the way up to the end of our meeting minutes page. We're going to get that page, and then we are going to add that page to our PDF writer as well. Next, we are going to use the open method to create a new watermarked cover PDF document, storing that back in result PDF file. And then we are using the write method, passing that result PDF file to it, and we are calling that on the PDF writer. And finally, of course, we need to close both our minutes file and our result PDF file. Let's have a look at our watermarked cover PDF document that we newly generated. And here we can see that we merged those two pages together. So the watermark PDF document has been added to the first page of our meeting minutes, but we can see that all other pages don't have that watermark on them, because afterwards we of course looped over the rest of the file and added it to our PDF document. We can also encrypt PDF document and basically secure it with a password. And for that we are following the same steps as before. So we are going to import our module, then we are going to open the document that we want to encrypt, so in our case meetingminutes.pdf. Then we are establishing our PDF reader by calling PDF file reader, passing the PDF file to it. We are going to create our PDF writer, and then we are looping over all the pages in our document here, adding those pages to our PDF writer. After that, we are using the encrypt method here on our PDF writer to provide a password and basically to secure our PDF document. In this case, we are going to provide the password swordfish, and users need to provide that password in order to access the document. Finally, let's create our new document. So here we're using the open method, and we're providing the new file name, so encrypted minutes.pdf, and WB for write binary as a second argument. And then of course we need to call write on PDF writer, passing the result PDF as an argument to it. And finally, of course, we need to close the document we worked with, and then we can have a look at our document. So here we have our encrypted minutes file, which has been generated in our mu code directory. And if we open that, it doesn't open instantly, but we need to provide a password. And only when we enter the password correctly will the document be opened and we can have a look at it. Let's continue with the project. Let's assume that we want to combine a lot of PDF documents, maybe we have a dozen PDF documents, into a single PDF file. And let's also assume that each of the PDF documents has a cover sheet as the first page, but we don't want the cover sheet repeated in the final result. So to do that, we are going to import our PyPDF2 module as well as the OS module. And then we're going to get all the PDF file names by defining a list here of PDF files. And then we are going to loop over all the entries in our current working directory. And if a file name ends with .pdf, we know we have a PDF file, so we're going to append that to our PDF files list. We're then going to sort our PDF files alphabetically, and then in order to create a new PDF document that includes all the different PDF files, we're gonna need a PDF writer. So we are instantiating that here, and then we're going to loop through all the PDF files. For this, we are going to loop over all the entries in our PDF files list here, which we generated based off all the PDF documents in our current working directory. Then we're going to open those files in read mode, and then we're going to loop through all of the pages except for the first one, because those are the cover pages, and we're going to add them. So for that, we are going to loop over index 1, so we're excluding the very first page, all the way up to the number of pages in our PDF document. We are calling getPage on each of those page numbers, and we are using the addPage method to add this to our PDF writer. And finally, of course, we need to specify the file that we want to create, where we want to save all those pages. So in this case here, allminutes.pdf. We're going to call write on our PDF writer, passing the PDF output to it. And then of course we need to close the file. So before we run our program, let's have a look at our working directory. So our new code directory here, we can see we have a number of different PDF documents. Just a note, I removed all the PDF documents that were encrypted, because if you don't remove those, then we are going to run into an error message here. And we are basically going to add all of those PDF documents together, but we are always going to remove the first page. So let's now run our program. And of course we are not going to get any output, but if we head over to our directory, we can see a new file was generated called allminutes. And if we take a look at that, we can see we have 96 pages total. So we basically added all of these documents together, but we always removed the first page from it. So especially if we have a very large number of PDF documents, we can use such a handy program to just run our code and then generate a PDF document for us. We can also use Python to create and modify Word documents, which have the docx extension. And to do that, as before, we can click on the gear icon inside of the Mu code editor, then head over to third-party packages and add Python docx in version 0.8.10. Once we click on OK, this is going to install the module for us. And in order to work with our docx module, we need to import it first inside of our REPL. And then we can work with an existing doc file. So here we have a file called demo, which is part of the downloadable files that we downloaded before. So we need to make sure that we move demo.docx into our Mu code directory. Now if you open up that file, this is what it looks like. So we have some text and different styling applied in here. Now after that, we can call paragraphs on doc and then get the length of it. And that's going to give us back the number 7, which means there are 7 different paragraph objects inside of our Word document. We can also index those paragraphs here by calling paragraphs on doc, passing the index to it, so index 0 for instance, and then getting back the text. In this case we get back document title, which is exactly the first text we have up here, so basically the first paragraph object. We can get back the second paragraphs object, which is basically this text here, a plain paragraph with some bold and some italic. And this is exactly the second text we have in here in our Word document. Now rather than referencing the text directly, we can also reference runs. And if we do that, and we type in doc.paragraphs1 runs0.text, we get the first part of our sentence, a plain paragraph with. And as we can see, this is basically the first part of the sentence right before the bold text. Now, if you're only interested in the text in a Word document, we can write a function getText and save it in, for example, read.docx.py. And here we are basically looping over the different paragraphs, appending them, and then returning the joined full text. Now with this module created, we can then import it into our REPL. And then we can use our getText method and pass our demo Word file to it. And this is going to give us back the Word document in its entirety. We can also create our own Word documents. For that, we of course need to first import our module. And then we can call document on docx. We can add our paragraph by using the addParagraph method, passing our text to it. And then we can save our Word document under a certain name, for example, hello world docx. And this is going to create a new file inside of our mu directory. And if we open that file up, we can see we have exactly that text here added to our Word document. We can also apply some styling. So for instance, we can add headings to our document. For that, we simply use the add heading method, specifying the name and then the type of heading we want to add. And in the end, of course, we need to save this under a certain name. So for example, headings.docx. And this is generating a new doc file, which we can then have a look at. And we can see we have a heading 0, heading 1 and heading 2 added in here. Let's have a look at the practice questions. A string value of the PDF file name is not passed to the PyPDF2 PDF file reader function. What do you pass to the function instead? So instead we would pass a file object returned from the open method. What modes do the file objects for PDF file reader and PDF file writer need to be opened in? So for that we need to pass RB for read binary for PDF file reader and WB for write binary for PDF file writer. How do you acquire a page object for page 5 from a PDF file reader object? So for this we would call getPage with an index of 4, which will return a page object for page 5 because this is 0 indexed. And of course we would call this on a specific file object. What PDF file reader variable stores the number of pages in the PDF document? This is a num_pages variable that stores an integer and the number of pages in the PDF file reader object. If a PDF file reader object's PDF is encrypted with the password swordfish, what must you do before you can obtain a page object from it? So in order to do that, we need to decrypt that file first. And to do that, we call decrypt and we pass swordfish as an argument. What methods do you use to rotate a page? We would use the rotate clockwise and rotate counterclockwise methods. And then the degrees by which we rotate the page is passed as an integer argument. What method returns a document object for file named demo.docx? So for that we would call docx.document and we pass the name of the document, so in this case demo.docx. What is the difference between a paragraph object and a run object? A document contains multiple paragraphs. A paragraph begins on a new line and contains multiple runs. And runs themselves are contiguous groups of characters within a specific paragraph. How do you obtain a list of paragraph objects for a document object that's stored in a variable named doc? So for that we would call paragraphs on doc. So doc.paragraphs. What type of object has bold, underline, italic, strike and outline variables? So that would be a run object that has these variables, not a paragraph. What is the difference between setting the bold variable to true, false or none? So true always makes the run object bolded and false makes it always not bolded when we style it, no matter what the style's bold setting is. None will make the run object just use the style's bold setting. How do you create a document object for a new Word document? So for that we would call document on docx. How do you add a paragraph with the text hello there to a document object stored in a variable named docx? So for that we would use the addParagraph method, which we call on doc, and we pass our string hello there as an argument to it. What integers represent the levels of headings available in Word documents? So for that we are going to use the integers 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4 respectively to reference the different headings. We learned how to work with PDF documents and also how to work with Word documents and also how to automate, for example, the creation of PDF documents and really save a lot of work. In the next video we are going to cover how to work with CSV files and JSON data. If you haven't already, feel free to subscribe to the channel and see you guys in the next video.